Half day.
I think a human like aspect that intrigues me a lot is someone's like passion and how like they can just be like so interested in like just anything and like they just get like so happy and like positive about it, and I just love to hear someone just I guess like passionate about things, and yeah, I don't know, it's cool to like learn about someone too, and I like people's interests, and I like to learn more about people and also just learn about myself, but also talk to them.
The idea of committing to something is kind of absolutely terrifying to me. I have a year left in college, and I have to decide what I'm doing after that, and I have so many options, and I don't want to pick the wrong thing, if that makes sense. Part of me wants to go off and do one thing, and part of me wants to go do something completely and totally different. And what if I regret what I choose and what I commit to? And I don't know. The way other people make decisions seemingly so easily and are able to be like, yeah, hey, here's this one thing I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't think I could do it.
I think it's cool that everyone kind of experiences things in different ways, but they kind of do it at the same time, and that people are able to like use those experiences to relate to each other. One big thing I've noticed is like on the internet, everyone's going through obviously their own lives, but it seems like there's this like phenomenon where people are like also experiencing similar things at similar times, and they could be like across the world from each other. I think it's cool that like that stuff does happen in unison, and people are able to come together and talk about those things, especially like just with ease, and are able to relate to that.
When you consider art, it's supposed to be a symbol of expressionism, or a means to take something abstract and make it a visual piece, whether that just be traditional art or even going as far as music. And it's just something that it's supposed to be experimental in its own right, but yet there's so many people who get to judge you and determine if it is art. There's an artist called Marcel Duchamp that says you just need an object, intent, and the audience to determine if art is art. And it feels like the artists themselves loses control of their own creation.
Seeing how
if someone has a bad day, how people around them rally to come together and make sure it doesn't stay that way. Or if someone, like, if something bad happens, they trip, they get injured, they lose a family member, like, the people around them come together. Or even beyond that, like, people will find ways themselves to react. Like, obviously we have this thing of, like, people staying strong and pretending that things aren't wrong, which is not the greatest way of coping. But, like, when people find a way to learn from what happened, or find a way to keep going, whether it be for themselves or for that which they've lost, or that whom they've lost, or all of those things, just seeing how people react in the face of the bad.
I don't know, I guess it's like when people are, like, hateful and, like, don't care about other human beings, like, that sucks. And it's, like, scary, like, how easily people can, like, dehumanize each other and, like, basically, like, torture each other. So that's, like, really terrifying to me about, like, being a human, is, like, when people can so easily, like, pretend like you're not a human anymore just because you're different. So that's, like, scary to me. I don't know how people can do that. Especially because I'm, like, I just want to care about every single person on the planet, which, like, isn't possible because I'm just one person. But
the idea of reunion, just the idea of two people or a group of people being reunited after days, weeks, years apart, and it's just a really awesome thing to watch happen from an outside point of view, because you just get to see this unapologetic expression of love, or of appreciation, or even just having missed someone, which I guess is its own form of love, I think. And I just think it's a really beautiful thing that we can just put aside any kind of social graces in just this moment of, like, overwhelmed emotion. And the idea that when we reunite, we're just trying as hard as we can to fill the gap of all of that lost time, and we're trying to make it seem like there was never any time apart at all.
I think it's really horrible that we fall in love with other humans and animals and other beings, and then we have to deal with the loss. And the fact that the loss is so debilitating, and we can't just deal with it and move on. There's so much emotion around it, and it's not something that we can control. It's like there's no logic, and I think that's kind of a flaw in humanity, but it's also not. It's a good thing, but it's also a really horrible thing that we're so emotionally attached to others, and it makes our existence worthwhile, but it also makes our existence horrible.
The fact that we're able to do so much with science, and, like, we're literally at the cusp of, like, finally exploring space and literally landing on asteroids that are flying through space. I think that just the amount of technological achievement and how far we can go with how much of a vast amount of time there is.
We have left to explore. It makes me sad that people are able to leave the ones they care about and just altogether forget. We see our parents as adults not remembering what they once were to us. It's just one big cycle that keeps repeating of growing up and forgetting about our own lives. And it's kind of scary and sad to see once it happens.
I've always really liked seeing how people learn how to make each other smile and laugh. Like, we have our friends and we have our family, and over time we learn so much about them that we know exactly what will get them, like, what will get positivity out of them, and that in turn makes us feel positive. We create like a cycle of giving back that laughter, that joy. So like my parents, for example, they seem to always have a way to make each other smile in weird situations, and I love seeing that happen. So it just always fascinated me how we sort of learn each other's habits and what we do, what one person does, and then point that out. And that sort of just noticing the little things about people really makes me smile. And how perceptive we've become to that is really neat to see.
I tend to struggle with the way that people perceive me, or the way that people see the way that I act, and I've been struggling with that, and that thought of the way that people perceive me kind of scares me, and that I don't know how I act differently from the eyes of different people, and I feel like that's just been a big struggle with me lately, and that I don't know the right things to say all the time. I don't know the right things to do, and that scares me, and that I feel like I just make mistakes with the way I interact with people, and that kind of terrifies me because I don't know how to improve sometimes, and sometimes I feel like everything is caving in, and I just wish I could understand what I look like from the outside, but I never will.
I think it's really cool when people get like happy to see each other or connect with new people. And I think just like, I don't know, I feel like especially during like COVID, when we were like alone for a long period of time, it was kind of, I don't know, noticeable when you didn't interact with anyone or didn't have anyone to like smile at or to tell a joke to. And I just think that sometimes you take it for granted, like how important human connection is. And I don't know, just like, even if you don't know someone, just knowing that like another person's in the same room as you is kind of comforting in a way. So
I guess I'm like terrified that not only this could be a simulation, but I mean, I choose to really not believe that, even though there's no ruling that out. I don't know like where the spirit will go after passing, I suppose, and not knowing like where the spirits will align with the people that I care about. On the only planet that I know of, is this my first life? Is this my second life? Is this my 500 trillionth life? Or am I just living the same life over and over again? I don't know if I'm on the right track spiritually. I'm just kind of going with the flow and trying to stay positive, but there's always that darkness in the back of the head that always haunts you day in and day out, and before you go to sleep, when you wake up.
I think it's kind of scary how, like, I don't know, it's like human life is pretty limited, like in the grand scheme of things. We only exist for so many years, and I found myself to be a pretty creative and curious person. I'm interested in a lot of different things. I'm quite terrified of not being able to experience all the stuff that I want to, and I feel like everybody else discovers that amongst themselves at some point in their life as well, and it's just a little tragic that we don't get to really embrace our full curiosity and all of our interests in such a finite amount of time. It's a little sad. You have to give up on some dreams and commit to other ones, or give up on some stuff that you might really be good at or really want to do just because of the timing of your life and how things play out.
I think just going into adulthood, learning like the impermanence of things is like a learning and growing thing that you just learn about life in general, about like everything kind of doesn't last. But I think specifically with the human experience, I find that like the relationships you have with people and like the time you spend with other people is probably like the most important thing you can do while you're alive. Like, you know, everybody finds different things fulfilling, their career, their hobbies, but I think being with people is like a surefire you know, you will have an experience and it is human. And I think what terrifies me about that, what I find to be like the best and worst part of the human experience is how impermanent those relationships are, how you will just fall in and out with people where, you know, you'll have a big breakup with a significant other or with a friend, but also just, for me, it's the quieter ones where you and a friend just slowly drift apart just given the circumstances life has to offer both of you. And it's not even something that either of you want or expecting. It just happens, and it's a very natural thing, especially, I guess, just in where we are in the context we live. That thing just happens all the time, and there's people that come into your life that you weren't expecting that is just as terrifying and maybe melancholic too, but otherwise it's just people drifting in and out and you having only a small modicum of control over that. I think it's a very like sobering but also electrifying feeling at the same time that, like, to me is like one of the most human things you can experience.
So it has a certain dynamic of sadness.
I am result of the many people I've ever met, interacted with, and like the more I spend with them, the more we've sort of molded each other.
That we're all kind of just products of
each other and our experiences and our beliefs. And
processes all these different, and I think it's
really it's like no matter what happens in the end,
in any sort of relationship,
you got something out of it for you, like
that
improved your quality of life, and you did the same for them, whether they believe it or not. Maybe you don't believe that this person brought quality
your life, but in the end, everybody does. It's just cool, you know. It's just that I wouldn't be who I am without people I've met throughout my entire life, and yeah, in the end, I'm just very grateful for everybody I've ever met.
Something that I have had happen to me a lot in my life is just I've experienced a lot of death, and so it puts you into this perspective where you can understand that tomorrow, like, you could die. Like, I could just be driving down the road, and the next thing I know, I'm gone. I never existed. So I think it really does make time tick much faster when you stare at the clock. So I think the proponent of humanity that we're all mortal is a very terrifying thought, because at any moment you or your loved ones could die, and you could be left wondering you could be left with many questions, and you may not ever get answers, and you could be lost for a very long time. So I think that perspective on life it's an interesting one, and it's scary, and I probably shouldn't think about it as much as I do, but unfortunately I do, and it's scary. But it also, in a weird way, makes me grateful for the time I do spend here, and I'm able to stop and smell the roses and really appreciate like my family for who they are. Just like really love my mom and my dad and my sister and my brothers.
I don't know, man. Like, I lost like fucking 17 friends to overdoses and drugs, and lost the love of my life, and lost my life. I lost everything more than one time, and I just don't really understand, like, what could make somebody ever want to do that. I've lost more in my life than in the last 4 years than I've ever lost in my whole life. Drinking, it used to be that I was a drunk and I was a fight, and I went to prison for fighting, and I've lived for years, just with no goals or no nothing, just living to be living. Finally had something to live for, and made the choices, to do the things I did. Ended up in the hospital, and now I'm 1,000 miles away and don't know what my future holds, and I'm just praying, hoping that she sees the good in me and knows that I can do it, get clean, It's awesome. Life is good when you're clean and sober. Hopefully I can prove myself. I guess I'm out of here. Peace out.